Hi, everyone, and welcome to the NUFC360 podcast. With me this week is a representative from Scotland, Mr. Stephen, a representative from Sweden, Mr. Max, and a representative from the deep south in Florida, Bo. How are we doing? How was everyone's weekend? Did everyone have a good Sunday?
Yeah. I feel, you know what? I come into this episode, I feel energized one way or another.
Yeah, I need to warn everyone before I am the negative one. We've been given fair warning by Stephen that he is going to be taking my mantle, which I'm happy to do. Now, what I'm going to ask you all to do is I'm going to ask a very brief, and I mean brief, Stephen, of how did you feel watching the match? Bro, you can kick yourself. How did you feel watching Newcastle on Sunday?
Disappointed, but not surprised.
There you go. There you go. And Max, what's yours?
Well, I was hungover watching the game. It didn't help anything. So that's my analysis.
And Stephen, fight every number that's going to come flowing out your mouth. Very briefly.
If we're talking about how we felt about it, then I would have to mirror Bo, but take it a little bit further. Very frustrating, very expected, given how we've been playing, and infuriating at a seeming lack of attempt to change any of the expected things.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much everyone. It was a match of a lot of shouting, a lot of maybes and close things. I've got a list of things I want to go through, and obviously we can get everyone's full analysis. But from the offset, I mean, I was terrified this was going to be like a 5-6-0. Dan Burn. Oh. There you go. Sorry, my internet just freaked out there. You can edit that as well, man. There you go.
All you said was
Dan Burn. We'll come back. Dan Burn
audio, do you think?
Versus Jack. Am I completely gone? Shall I leave?
You're good now. You're good now. You're good now.
Am I good now? We're good now. I'm gonna fucking edit that. Right. Anyway, Dan Burn versus Nicholas Jackson. Holy shit. What the fuck? Stephen, you can take this one because I'm sure you're chomping at the bit. Why was he told every time he gets the ball, Dan, use your speed and run into midfield? What was going on there?
I mean, I think rather than it being any sort of planned man marking, I think it was just a symptom of the flaws in our system. I think we saw it multiple times during the game, right? That either Palmer or Jackson would just slip into the space behind Bruno. They'd bait Bruno forward, play it around him, and then whoever was the forward, Palmer or Jackson, Mudryk, whoever, or Madueke, who had a good game as well, would just have free reign to run at our back line. I mean, obviously their first goal came from because came through Jackson because he was being chased effectively. Dan Burn chasing the ghost of Nicholas Jackson, and I think we've said it multiple times. I know I've said it multiple times on this show. It's the same tactical flaw people have been exploiting since December last year. Yeah. This is like the middle of last season during all the way back to the worst run of form we've had under Eddie Howe. Like, people have been using the same methods to bypass our press and play their way through our shape and our system, and we saw no attempt at changing it. I thought, barring Lewis Hall, I think pretty much the whole back four had a poor game. But the centre backs, especially, both of them were at fault for their positioning multiple times throughout the game. But the midfield also didn't give them any support.
Yeah. I mean, speaking on that, that was my next question. Bo, you can take this one. A bit Hall versus Madueke. Again, on paper, I was absolutely shitting myself. And then on the day, it started ropey. How do you think Hall did against Madueke and then against Mudryk?
No, I think he actually did well, all things considering. I mean, they're both two players who will essentially know each other pretty well. One from just their time at Chelsea, but also in the international lineup as well. And they both. I mean, it's tough to go against a winger like that who's so quick, so direct, and who can make things happen. But I think all things considered, I think Hall did a pretty good job standing up to him for the most part. You know, it's and just to kind of talk about what Steven was talking about in terms of like our center back duo, you know, it's tough because they both are very, very consistent, but they're just very, very old. So it's one of those things where it really felt like it was the tortoise versus the hare, you know, one long ball. And I think everything could have gone to hell. I mean, look, we saw 4 minutes in, they scored, you know, and it kind of was like, all right, I think everybody here definitely, as soon as that goal went in, it was like, wow, this is going to be 4, 5, maybe 6, all about this, all the same, you know? So the fact that we were able to adjust just a little bit was great, but at the same time, I think we all can see and say, hey, this back line, you know, apart from our fullbacks who are younger, it definitely needs something that's eventually going to be, you know, bringing a bit more freshness in for the future.
Chelsea's front three, though not prolific typically, like in Madueke and Jackson, are rapid and Neto. That's the first thing they've got is they are one of the fastest attacking lines. And I've never seen Dan Burn do this. So I don't know if he was told, because I think I saw after the match that he was he had a conversation with Eddie Howe. I think I saw a report of like saying what the hell's going on. But yeah, we are far too easy to play against. And then we have only word I can describe is galloping through midfield like, without a care in the world, and then leaving Bruno to be outpaced by everyone.
And you know, real quick, Mark and Steven, I don't know if you noticed this, but it definitely felt like the idea was as soon as Nicholas Jackson was tracking back to get that ball, they wanted Dan Burn to come up as soon as possible to shut off any of to not allow Nicholas to have, you know, that time to make a decision to move right or move left. But it still didn't help because as soon as Dan Burn ran up there, it just swept right past him. You know? Yeah,
I mean, you can like unless you're if Lloyd Kelly was on the pitch, not that he would have done better. If someone faster is on the pitch, you could maybe argue that taking some man marking into midfield with Jackson as he dropped in would have been the right move. I think that ideally in most systems that employ a 3-man midfield, there would be a 6 who's there to block off that pass. But we have Bruno, who, I mean, as you mentioned the disallowed goal after 4 minutes, 6 minutes, something like that. Yeah. Like Bruno was the one in the back line for that goal. And, you know, he's one of the slowest football players I've ever seen. You know, I used to think watching, like, if you watch Tottenham play in the days when they had like Vlad Kirikesh, you know, a man who had a turning circle of an oil tanker. I never thought I'd see the day when someone was slower than a guy like him, but Bruno is, and you add him marking someone in the back line. But then you ask him to play as the deepest lying midfielder in a flat midfield 3, as Mark says, against a front 3 that are really fast, really fast. It's the only way to it's either an overconfidence in our ability to play, or it's naivety to put the triangle of Fabian Schär, Dan Burn, and Bruno against Palmer, Jackson, Neto, and Madueke. Like, Hall's not quick. He had a decent game, but he's not quick. Tino's the fastest in that backline by far, and he didn't have a great game.
Yeah,
he did not have a great game. It boggles the mind how we could set up the way we did. I mean, you look at like. It's all well and good playing, you know, a really high line or trying to press really high. If you have, you know, like I mentioned about if we had Lloyd Kelly on the pitch for the whole time, having someone fast in the back line, but we don't. We had one player who you could describe as quick. The way they managed to just play through us was horrendous, and we've seen it multiple times this season. You get those periods where we play well for 10, 15 minutes every game, but then we collapse for the rest of it. I mean, was it between compared to Chelsea? I mean, we had, what was it? I think Longstaff played 23 minutes in that game. He had the joint most tackles and interceptions on the pitch for us with Hall and Andrew Linton. He was okay when he came on. Moises Caicedo had 10 tackles and interceptions on his own. Our 3 biggest ball winners on the pitch statistically that game didn't put up the same defensive output as Moises Caicedo did, and it was equal possession. We can't exactly argue, oh yeah, we had loads of the balls, so we had to tackle a bit less. Yeah. We just couldn't touch them in the middle of the park half the time. You ended up with You even look at like the passing numbers. Like we had was it 9 key passes between us. A key pass, for anyone who doesn't know, is a pass that directly leads to a shooting chance or just a shot. We had 9 as a team, and 4 of those were Lewis Hall. The other 5 were split 1 each between 5 players. Chelsea had 14 key passes, not a huge number more, but they were evenly split across the park, showing that they had talent at every spot on the pitch. Regardless of what we might think about, their ability in the final third and whatnot, they had creativity everywhere, and it showed because we couldn't touch them. That's a big source of the frustration was just the inability and the lack of willingness to change.
Yeah. I feel like we had some opportunities. Max, I'll bring you out of the shadows there lurking. There was an opportunity that Bruno had bursting, and I use that word very kindly, bursting through the Chelsea line. He was caught by, I think it was Levi Colwill. Some saying in the I think was it Roy Keane suggesting that could have been and should have been a red card. First of all, do you think it was a foul? And second of all, do you think if he wasn't fouled, do you think Bruno was getting that?
I think it definitely was a foul. I think it was quite clear contact on his right foot or something on the challenge. The red card, I'm a bit split between. I think it has the potential to be a red card because he can reach that ball. I know we already talked about him being very slow, but he still has the possibility to reach that ball. I mean, you can't predict the future, what's going to happen there. So he's clearly denying him the possibility to reach the ball. And if he does reach the ball, that is a clear goal scoring opportunity because it's him and the keeper alone. So I think they should have reviewed it at least for a red card. I can't be super mad about it not being it, but at the same time, it could have helped us a lot, and it probably would have. But
do you think if it was Isak instead, do you think it would have been? I mean, he definitely would have missed, but do you think he would have got to the ball?
I'm not going to entertain that, but yeah, it definitely would have. And I honestly find it quite weird that they didn't even look. I mean, it didn't come up that they were looking at it, so I guess they didn't.
I think they said because it was outside the box, it wasn't going to be reviewed, which fine. But again, that wasn't the issue. I think the first issue was pen or not, but second of all was, well, if he was through, that's a goal scoring opportunity. Mm-hmm. And then I want to move on to my review. If everyone watched it, I didn't understand when we bought Nick Pope. I thought we had a perfectly adequate keeper. Not great, but I know the jokes are that I love Martin Dubravka, but it was adequate. He's an adequate goalkeeper in the Premier League. And I thought, is Nick Pope a huge step up? Shot stopping, yeah, he's one of the best. Reflexes, crazies. I've never seen a goalkeeper play for Newcastle where if he puts his arm out, that arm is like a wall. It doesn't really typically let things go by him. It just bounces off his arms. But fuck me, the boy has got bricks for feet. He is the reason why we can't keep the ball as much, and we just hoof it up. But honestly, not hoof it up. Fucking pings it out to anywhere where a player isn't and where the ball goes out. But the thing for me, Bo, do you think that Nick Pope was to blame for the second goal?
Yes and no.
The answer is yes.
It's very tough because it's one of those things where and everybody understands, like, he has moments where he's very cool and calm and collected when it comes to like shot stopping. But then there are other moments where we had that series of corners where it was like 4 or 5 corners in a row where he continued to just bat the ball forward, bat it across. And I'm like, go up there. I was like, claim it. You're 6'4", 6'5", go up there and claim it. And it kind of just boggles my mind. I don't think that he is to blame solely for that goal. Could he have done better? 100%. But the buildup before is kind of the thing that I was the most upset with. This is when Isak tried to do too much, ends up losing the ball, and you can see him trying to track back and make amends for his mistake, but by then you already have one person in the middle just ready to pounce on it. So it's one of those things where I'm a bit more aggravated about the buildup than I am about the actual goal itself. Because for me, at a Premier League level, if you're one-on-one with a keeper like that, you should score. No matter if you have, Ochoa in there, no matter if you have Nick Pope in there, it doesn't matter if you have De Gea in there, you should score. So as soon as that ball got passed, I said, all right, it's 2-1. But I'm not sure how everybody else feels about the buildup or the goal. I feel like more so the buildup is the one that I'm a bit more aggravated about than the actual goal itself.
I think the build-up lends to exactly what Steve was talking about, how easy it is just to get past our midfield and then run at our defence. I think Fabian Schär could have done a lot more.
Yeah.
But it says near post. It wasn't hit. Like, it was a good hit, but it weren't boom like a rocket. And it wasn't directly into the corner. It was a good, like, half a metre inside the post. I feel like that should never have gone in for all the reasons they've said.
I mean, we saw. I mean, that goal that went in was it just after the second half started, 47th minute.
Oh,
that goal, even when you consider it as the expected goals value of that when it's on target is 0.07 expected goals.
Okay.
In the 82nd minute, Pope saved a left foot shot from Mudryk, sort of middle to the left, that had an expected goals on target of 0.37. So he saved 5 out of the 7 shots that he faced on target, which is fine. Most of them were tame and low, so you'd expect him to save those. But he saved a better shot from a better position that was hit harder later on in the game. I think that. I do agree, Bud. I think the build up before, particularly Isak trying to do too much, and we'll get on to Isak doing things badly in a minute. But yeah, I think it is a combination of both. The ease of teams playing through our midfield. Schär, I think Schär got a bit too much flack for that goal. I think he did sort of what he could, knowing his own limitations. He sort of shepherded it outside a bit, and then we've heard on content before on YouTube. We heard Dan Burn talk about playing with Pope. You try to cover the inside or the outside, and the goalkeeper covers the other part. So Schär puts him outside. He still shoots at the near post, and then Pope sort of flappy hands it, like near the end Hugo Lloris did at Tottenham, and just lets it on through. Like it's normally Dubravka who concedes low to his right, but apparently that's contagious now. I think it was a combination, but I think Pope should have done a lot better on that goal. I think it was a speculative shot at best, and I think I think that's just really poor goalkeeping.
Yeah, and we've mentioned it now, and Max, you've got to give us a rousing speech as to why we're all wrong. But what has happened to Alexander Isak, and why is he turned into the Chris Wood that we had before he turned into Woodinho at Nottingham Forest? What's happened to him? He's shooting when he shouldn't. He's not passing when he should. What's happened to the lad?
I wish I knew, but I mean, I've been defending him for some weeks now, when other people has been saying that he's not good and he should be sold and blah blah blah.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
I don't think he lacks confidence, because he's that kind of character that doesn't really lose his confidence, but it really looks like he's lost his confidence. And also the confidence in his teammates, I think, is severely lacking, because if you see at the situation we had when he dribbled past the goalkeeper and he should have scored or passed, I get the feeling he looked up and saw Joe Linton and was like, nah, he's going to miss.
Which is another, a lot would think that.
Overthinking the situation while it's happening, and it happens so quickly, and then suddenly you don't have any opportunity to do anything. You don't shoot, you don't pass, so it just sort of disappears. And then, so I'm starting to think it's something about this relationship with the teammates. I think 3 or 4 times during the game he shouted at Miggy for not passing, which we all do when they sit at home. But imagine him in the ground shouting for a pass because he knows he can score a goal, and then he doesn't get it, and Miggy shoots right at the defender in front of him. It's got to be sick and tiring for him. It doesn't excuse him not doing better, but I'm starting to feel like that it's something not really clicking with the attacker. He doesn't have the good relationship with any of the attacking players. I mean, Joe Willock is a good friend of his. Maybe he should start more. They maybe could strike up some sort of relationship chemistry on the pitch. And it's overall also the chemistry in the team right now, as Steven has been touching about this. It's not good. I mean, there's so many parts is wrong with our game. And I mean, for the goal where we concede, I mean, he does what he's trying doing all the time, taking a touch and then passing the ball along, but takes too many touches. I don't know, too many thoughts. This doesn't come more naturally to him as it has done in the past. And that could also be down to the broken toe. It has affected his training. Maybe it's not in sync anymore. I don't know. It's too many variables, but something's clearly not right.
Yeah, I think you've touched on it as well there, where the whole it weren't just Isak. I think like the whole team's disjointed. There was an opportunity that I remember vividly because I was screaming, our best player. And clearly Hall watches these videos and thought, you know what, I need to step my game up because that short little bald Yorkshireman won't leave me alone. Because he has been by far, for me, our best player in the last 3-4 matches. He's been sensational, the kid. Obviously got the assist, making the overlapping runs. He rarely makes a mistake when he gets the ball. He's very good at keeping the ball. And Harvey Barnes is running at the defense and he cuts inside. We have 3 or 4 in the box and Hall makes a really good run. And instead he chooses to shoot when he should have played him in. That was the only thing he should be doing. I don't mind Harvey Barnes having a pop when it's just him or maybe just him and Isak. He's like, oh, well, I'm going to have a shot. Don't be shooting when you've got 4 or 5 people in the box. That's when you put it in. Bo, why are we so shit at set pieces? Why are we literally statistically the worst at set pieces?
It's honestly depressing. I mean, what I think I saw a stat, and Steven, back me up if I'm wrong. It's been 2 years, I think, since we scored, or a year maybe since we scored directly from a corner. Maybe a year. We're coming up on maybe a year since we've scored directly from a corner.
That is insane.
That's crazy.
It's wild to think about, you know, and it's unfortunate because I think we all watching the game, we're sitting there and as soon as they go up for a corner, you're like, well, you know, it's either going to hit the first man or it's going to go to Dan Burn and he'll probably clear it, shoot, and it won't go even close. So I mean, it's unfortunate, and I'm not sure if we need a set piece coach for attacking and defending like a number of other teams do, or we just need to work on our routines. But it should not be that hard to beat the first man at a Premier League level. Yeah,
I've got a stat for you, Bo. Just to back up your point. We have the second highest percentage of set pieces resulting in a shot in the league, behind only Ipswich. More than a third of our set pieces result in a shot. That's better than teams who are good at set pieces like Villa, Arsenal, Brentford, Forest, etc. Okay. But when you look at the actual percentage of our set pieces that result in a goal, it's 4th worst in the Premier League. Only 11% of our set pieces result in a goal.
It's wild.
The thing is, for me, what we're not doing, and Shearer said this about when Eddie Howe first came in, we started doing, for the first time in a long time, the dark arts. We were doing falling down, faking injuries. We were being a bit nasty, like putting down burn on goalkeepers. And really, like when you watch Arsenal taking a corner, the keepers must despise it because they're getting pushed, shoved. Man City got the goal last week because they were shoving in, pushing the goalkeeper. Mm-hmm. We are too nice. And I think Hall, ironically, I think we've got Hall puts it on a sixpence every time. He puts it in that danger zone, curls it towards goal. I really like Hall's delivery at corners. And on the other side, Trips or Gordon, whoever's typically quite good. But we're just clearly doing the same thing every time, and we're not being smart enough. We're not being pragmatic enough. I think when Eddie Howe first came in, we had a few routines going with Bruno and Miggy and whatnot. Where's that gone?
Yeah. There's a particular routine that you used to see us do, which was you would take the short corner, usually to Almiron, and then Trippier or Longstaff would come barreling in behind him. He would lay it off, and then they would, usually it would be Trippier, would sort of lift it over up just in front of the penalty spot. And we've seen a couple goals be scored from there. I think Botman scored one.
Bruno scored a volley once where it pinged in. But
or Wilson scored against West Ham from that exact sort of position. We don't see that anymore. I mean, a lot of the Jason Tyndall is apparently is the one who's responsible for our set pieces. We've been awful at set pieces.
Get him out then.
But you look at a lot of the trends in modern football. The best teams in the world at set pieces all have set piece coaches.
Yep.
Regardless, you can ignore Arsenal being a a really infuriating, insufferable team as a whole, and Nicholas Jover getting way too much press. He's really good at his job, regardless.
Mm-hmm.
You look at Austin McPhee at Villa, Carlos Vicens at Man City. Man City are pretty good at utilizing set piece situations, not necessarily as a sort of big lump it into the box team, but with their routines. And all these teams have a modern, usually quite a young, forward-thinking set piece coach, and we don't have that. And I think there's a number of issues that this could all tie back to behind the scenes. But someone needs to tell Eddie Howe, look, we're not doing well enough at set pieces. We need to get a set piece coach in to drill the team on these routines, because we're a big team. We are not a small side. We should be doing better.
Yeah, absolutely. Dan Burn should be scoring at least. If Football Manager's anything to go by, he should be on 20 goals a season with my set routines. And I'm going to float a question. I'm obviously a no to this, but it's been touted. Eddie Howe out. I'm hearing a lot of negativity about it. But percentage-wise, Bo, and I'll ask everyone this as well, 100% is definitely sack him. Where are you at on the how much good grace he got? What's your thoughts?
I think, and I've said this before, you guys, we have it on record so we can clip this. I said, hey, look, like, he's earned a lot of good grace. If I was to give a percentage, it'd probably be about 40% right now, maybe 35. Just because of what he's done with us. Coming on when the takeover happened, getting us to 4th, getting us into the Champions League. He's done an excellent job of taking us past that bottom tier and moving into that next tier. And I think that, originally I wasn't sure if he was the one who could take us into the upper tier with like a lot of the other top 4, top 5 teams. And I'd later changed my mind, but now I'm looking at it and it's the board isn't helping, obviously, just by not bringing anybody in during the transfer window. But it's like Steven said, the failure to adjust and to pivot when it comes time because a plan isn't working is mind-blowing. It's insane. That's what insanity is, right? We all know it's doing the same thing over and over and not expecting a different result.
Expecting Dan Burn to score.
Exactly. Exactly. So as of right now, I am not, but I will tell you, I if we have another 2-3 months, hell, another 3-4 games of this, I would not be surprised if he's gone before Thanksgiving.
Yeah. How about you, Max? What's your patience wearing like with Eddie?
I'm going to be political in my answer on this because if you take into account like what Bo said there with the board and how we dealt with the summer transfer window, losing 2 players rather than and not gaining anything almost, said that makes me give him more trust because I think he has, like Bo said, he has earned that. He should get some time. But on the other hand, I am with Steven with the way, and Bo also said that he's not adjusted his way of playing, and I'm getting frustrated at not being tactical, flexible in some games, and not maybe just try something else, try something new, try a 3-back, 5-back, do something else, just to try and change things up because obviously we're trying to play a way that we did when the season we got in the Champions League, and we're not executing it in the same way that we did then. We don't have the dark arts part anymore. We have lost some players, and some players have. They peaked during that season, and now they're not as good. Fabian Schär, I don't think he's had a good game since he come back on his red card. I'm actually leaning towards having Emil Kraft back in the team just to shake things up. Not just because
what a surprise.
He's never put a foot wrong. Love that boy.
It's not just because I'm sweet. I actually think as a defender, if you're going to do this man marking press, he's faster than Schär and he has better movement than Schär. But I get the passing. You can lose the passing ability, but just to shake things up again. I think everything's become quite stale, and that's why I'm leaning towards maybe it's
predictable as well.
Yeah, predictable, and that's why I'm leaning towards maybe a change. But then I also have this in my back of my mind. I really like Eddie Howe, and he's given us so much this past few years. We should give him some more time to change things or try and do something different. But it's really tough. It's a really tough question. I don't want to see him leave on these terms. It feels a bit wrong. It doesn't feel right.
Okay.
So I really hope he gets a few more games at least.
Okay, so I'll put you down as a 40%. Stephen, I saw your eyes light up when I said percentages. What's your...
I love a number. I would say, I mean, I have been a vociferous critic outside of these recordings of how in recent games, there have been issues, and I think I've mentioned this in the discussions we've had outside the show. There's been we talked about the ease of playing through our midfield. We talk about the methods by which teams can do it, and the fact that it goes back to last December. That same move of bait Bruno, play it in behind into the half spaces, and you have a back four to run at. That has not changed. There's been apparently no attempt to rectify that, and it's maybe our biggest tactical flaw outside of the things that can't be controlled, like having the world's slowest core of centre backs. At the moment, I would say I'm currently about 50-50 on how well, at least on how soon you would try and make a change or think about making a change. I am on record recently as saying, well, at least in our group chat, if he loses the next 2 games, I can see it. We have a supposedly very ambitious ownership. He's lost his biggest allies in the boardroom, in Amanda and Mehrdad Guddusi. PIF, especially now that all the reports, the Saudis are going to be getting the World Cup and all that. They're going to be looking to make make a big splash somewhere. I think if we lose to Chelsea and Arsenal, which is very likely at this point based on how we're going, I think we might lose to Forest based on how they're playing and how we're playing. If he loses the next 2, I think it's highly likely if we lose the next 3 that there will at least be you have to win the next game to keep your job kind of situation. You look at last season, all the injuries in the world that we could use. Potentially, I think it was Mark. You mentioned it in your match reaction. Maybe last season with the injuries covered up for a lot of these flaws. We were 4th in the league on expected goals last season with all our injuries. We're 9th this season. We have a healthier team now. We still have injuries missing, but these are not to key creative players outside of Wilson. Yeah, we're 9th on expected goals this season, but we're behind Bournemouth, who are a good team to watch, but they have less talent on paper. We're behind Brentford, who've lost Ivan Toney, and we're behind Man United, who are a meme. They are a living joke, and we're behind Man United. We are 11th on expected goals against. Last season, with all of our injuries, we finished 11th in expected goals against. We are playing as badly defensively this season as we did last season with fewer injuries.
Yeah.
We have this season the 4th worst shots on target total in the league. We're worse than West Ham, who've been awful at times. Worse than Wolves, who've had no striker at times, who've worth their salt. Worse than Everton, who've been shellacked by teams at times. We have the 2nd most errors leading to shots by opponents in the league, behind only Southampton. Like we are playing like the epitome of mid-table mediocrity. You look at the game, just Chelsea. Yeah, we're 12th at the moment. You look at the Chelsea game. We had 7 progressive carries across the team, and a progressive carry being one that ends in the opponent's half somewhere or the penalty area and is taken at least 10 yards from its furthest point. We had 7. In an equal possession game, Chelsea had 22.
Yeah,
they were carrying the ball. We had Tino, who's a ball carrier. We had Barnes, who is a ball carrier, not a passer. He's a ball carrier. We had Miggy, who likes to run with the ball. Isak likes to run with the ball. Jolinton likes to run with the ball. We had less than a third of their progressive carries. We had, what was it? Well, I think 1.8 XG on the day. 1.2 of that was from Isak. One of those shots was the one that they scored from. Was right in front of the keeper. That was the biggest chunk of that expected goals. The other 0.6 between the team, was between Barnes, Almiron, Byrne, and Cher. We mentioned it before, the lack of quality in certain positions on the rest of the pitch, particularly on the right wing. But we've seen these players play better than this.
Yeah.
And we saw us play worse at the start of the year, but scrape by with lucky results. And it's looking like, at the moment, in hindsight, that those results are more a fluke and that we were lucky to get those results. We could be much worse off than we are right now.
Should be.
If things go a little bit, there's a lot of hypotheticals that get thrown around. Oh, if we don't lose to Brighton, we're a lot better off. Oh, if we score a goal here, we're much better off. But if we lose to Wolves, if we lose to Bournemouth, like, we're much worse off. Yeah. Right? We there are times in these games where we have the same individual errors that plagued us before we had that first January window post takeover.
Yeah,
we are playing really badly, and it's not like we can really label the team as lazy. Half of them are still trying, unless you're Bruno, who audibly got a "don't just stand there." That's a direct quote from Eddie Howe on the touchline. He shouted, "Don't just stand there" at Bruno in the game. But you can't blame the others for not working. Most of them run really hard. They work hard. But if this is them trying their hardest right now, then the easiest thing a team can do is to make a change at coach. So going back to the percent, I'm 50-50 on make a change soon. If we lose to Chelsea or knocked out the cup, then we lose to Arsenal, as we probably expect. And especially if we lose to Forest, I think you have to, because at that point, then the season is in jeopardy of going nowhere and it being a real regressive season. And we're seeing.
There's an international break after Forest game, right?
Oh,
yes.
No.
No. Yeah,
if we were to lose to Forest going into an international break, that would be a time to make a change, because with the way it's going, like we heard before the season, obviously there's a whole other host of things going on around, the way the club's been run this season and how things have been handled. But all the reports we heard before the summer window were, the teams apparently expecting or hoping for a late cup run and some kind of competition for European spots. Neither of those look likely. Yeah. And the easiest thing, as we've seen Chelsea do it over the years. We've seen Man United fail at doing it, but they still do it. We've seen multiple teams throughout the years realize, quite correctly, the easiest thing you can do is change the coach. Man United are going after Ruben Amorim. They'll probably get better. The likelihood is they'll get better under him. We'll have an opportunity, if we lose the next 2 or 3, to make a change and go make an ambitious move. Go get someone that Paul Mitchell can work with, who isn't going to go bitching in the media because he's throwing his toys at the pram because his best mates have left and suddenly he's no longer the go-to man on everything at the club. Yeah. The more I speak, the higher my percentage is getting, and the higher my blood pressure is getting. So I'm going to stick with my 50-50, and if we lose the next 2, I think it's possible he goes, and then that's my answer.
I think I'm going to split the middle of the way. I'm thinking I'm 65%. I think 65-35, because I'll sum it up and we have to do our score predictions for Wednesday. But I don't think we've played. I've had this feeling with watching Newcastle for such a long time, and it's like watching Tonali on an individual basis. Like, just supposed to be better. I've seen you be better. I see you fuck off with Italy and do little backflips, back hit heels and stuff, and doing amazing. You come to us, and I don't know what Tonali is. Are you creative? Because you're not. Are you defensive? Because you're not. Are you? So he's frustrating me, but he's kind of epitomizes the entire team since we finished 4th. Since then, I just haven't seen us pressing aggressively. And I've said it before, the dark arts have gone and we have got worse. And as I said in my post-match, I feel like this transfer window is keeping Eddie Howe, is a little shield. And the injuries last season was a little shield, but there's no excuses when we're not pressing anymore with the exact same team. Fine, we might not get better, but we should still be as good as we were. I know they got older, and Max has rightly said that, some players did peak then, but we've bought in other players like Hall has made our left-hand side
Tonali is available. Tonali is objectively better than Sean Longstaff.
Longstaff plays better when he comes on. I don't know why we bought Tonali. I can't see what we're using him for. I don't see him doing anything impactful in matches apart from one pass that gave it to Bruno that sent through Isak, which he fucked up. So it's really frustrating. And yeah, I think if we lose the next few games, I don't want to sound like a spoiled fan when I watch Man United bitching and whining about their ownership and stuff. And I do remember how shit we've been, and I do remember what it's like to be a bottom half side. But too much has happened, and I'm sick of the flat 3 midfield. I'm sick of us not playing well and pressing as well. For me, it's not so much about the results, it's about the way we're playing, and it's really annoying that we're living again. It's very Brucey, like living on scraps of a chance, and that should have been a goal, and very frustrating. But before we go, we play Chelsea again at St James's, and they will rotate because they've got 1 trillion players. So I suspect we'll play a different team because we're pressed for time. I was going to say who starts. I think maybe 1 or 2 players. Hopefully Gordon's back, but I don't know how bad his injury is because we desperately missed him against Chelsea. I thought Harvey Barnes played terribly. He doesn't have to pay when you're not quick and you're not having a good game. It looks worse because if you're quick, you could maybe run at the defense. But Gusto had Barnes in his pocket all match. Bo, what is your score prediction?
So I think that since this is at home, I want to be optimistic, but I really just have a sinking feeling that this is going to be a draw. And we're probably going to have to do penalties again. It would be the Newcastle way for that to happen. And then from there, yes, I think that would be a very, very Newcastle way to go, is to lose on pens. But I'm really, that's what my head says, but my heart is going for a win. We'll go with that.
So just an ambiguous win, Max.
Yeah.
What's your score prediction?
I honestly don't know. It might just be a Newcastle wins 1-0. Out of nowhere, just wins the game. I don't think so. I don't know. It's at home. We always do better at home, but it's been looking so flat for past 3 games or this whole season, really. So except the City game. So no, actually, I'm gonna go with Bo. It's a draw, and then we lose some penalties. That's
okay. And Stephen, our very own supercomputer, what are the numbers telling you? What's the score going to be?
Well, we're with 1 win in the last 7 games, and that was Wimbledon. Chelsea have gone 6 games without a clean sheet, so I think we will score. I think they've scored more than 2.5 goals in 7 out of the last 8 games. Chelsea as well. We do play a lot better at home, but I think the mood will be a bit flat, barring a bit of needle at the start of the game to get the crowd really into it. I think it might just be a bit of a flat game, and I can see us conceding early. Maybe I think it will be probably another 2-1 loss, is what my head is saying. My heart is saying the crowd will get into it and we'll, smash and grab a 1-0 win. If we get to penalties, I'm gonna have a heart attack. I might need to have another open heart surgery. But head 2-1 loss, heart 1-0 win maybe.
Oh, I'm chesting it. 3-0 win. 3-0. This is the one. 3-0. It's going to happen. Ursula is going to get a perfect hat trick. I'm joking. That fucking boy. But I'm going. No, seriously, I think 2-0. Jerry, think 2-0 win. There was positives in that match. We do play better at home. Hopefully, Joe Linton's legs get taken away from him, and someone else can play midfield. It's very frustrating. And I don't know.
Bo, what was it said? What was it you said about the definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Woo! Expecting Isak to score.
So I was saying I'm the only sane person here.
Nah, I've been watching Newcastle for far too long. I've lost my mind. Yeah, we're going to win. We are going to win. Because if we don't win this, I am leaning very heavily into see you later, Eddie. Thank you. But there were questions when he was brought in. Like I said, Bo, can he go from bottom to top? And I think he is definitely a top half manager, but he's starting to look to me like he's bumping on his ceiling. So it needs to be a big performance for me. And if we don't fucking press, I'll be infuriated because we have to start doing it again. It's really done in. So I hope we've cheered you all up, everyone that's been watching. If you are still watching and not crying, if you hit like, share, and subscribe, that would really help us. Comment below your score predictions. Boys, I will probably do another one of these Thursday. Happy as Larry saying, yes, Mark, you were absolutely 100% right on that victory there that you said.
Hope so.
And fingers crossed for Wednesday. Thank you, everyone. See you later, boys.